Hello, today I'm going to talk about the troubles you can have with these dogs. The whole channel is for newcomers if they're interested in the breed like I was as a kid, as a young adult. I mean, I was like a sponge. I soaked in everything. I wanted to know everything. I read everything. Of course, in my day, you couldn't get a lot of information because we had 3 channels. There was no social media, no YouTube. You either wrote letters to somebody if you knew their address, and pardon me, word of mouth, excuse me, or just magazines, and that was the only way you could find things out. So I did all the reading I could and everything. But I know in my day, for years, they would say the news or quotes from the Humane Society would say, if you see somebody with their dogs on chains, they're probably dog fighters. You should turn them in. And that's bull, because I've known a lot of people to keep their dogs on chains. In my early days, people still hunted a lot, and I had an uncle, I had neighbors, I knew people that had beagles or coon dogs, and they was all kept on a chain. So number one, that's bullshit. It's also a good idea, I think, to keep bulldogs on a chain, because when you do have an aggressive one, whether it be dog aggressive or you know, I've had some that get along with other dogs, but they'll kill anything else in sight. A raccoon, a cat, a rabbit. So it's you already got the deck stacked against you if you're just legal and just owning these dogs. But that's the kind of stuff that you have to put up with. I don't know what it's like now, because I've always kept kind of quiet. Matter of fact, the last probably 15 years I had dogs. I never told anybody, as far as neighbors or people at work, because it's just better off to be on the down low. Everybody, back then anyway, everybody, you either loved these dogs or you hated them. There was no in between. And I can remember coming home from work one day. I lived out in the country, and I pulled up in my driveway and see a bunch of papers taped on my front door. I'm like, what the hell is this? So my neighbor comes walking over. He's kind of far away, but he comes walking over. So I start walking towards him because I know he's coming over, and he's like, man, dude, what's going on? I said, I don't know. What are you talking about? He said, man, earlier there was a bunch of sheriff cars out here, and, you know, just regular cars. He said, man, your whole driveway was packed. I was like, really? He said, yeah, they was out there looking at the dogs. So I walk up to my front door, and there's 3 papers on the door, 3 or 4, and it's, you contact the sheriff's office within 24 hours or a warrant will be issued for your arrest. Had a letter from the Humane Society. You need to contact us in 24 hours or we're going to do this, this, and that. So first I go back and check on my dogs. Everything's all right. I call these numbers, nobody answers. I have to call off work the next day because I got 24 hours or they're gonna issue a warrant for my arrest, right? So I don't think the sheriff ever did call me back. But I got a hold of the Humane Society. Oh, and the dog catcher too, he had a note on there. And what the whole problem was that I didn't know, somebody rich, because, you know, that's who makes all the goddamn laws, is the rich. The common man doesn't have any say in anything. Some rich lady, a pit bull had chased her. It scared her, which I get it. And she took her money and influence, and the city council passed a ordinance you wasn't allowed to own bulldogs in that county. Rather than just coming and tell me that, though, they come on my property, which I think's illegal. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how you can just come on my property and walk around my yard and investigate something. It'd be different if somebody said, there's a dead body back there. Of course, they would have every right to come on your property and walk around the yard still not to come in your house. They'd need a warrant. But because I talked to a deputy sheriff after this, that I worked with, part-time deputy sheriff, and so that already pissed me off. But I knew they got the power, right? So I called the dog catcher. He was super nice, and that's all it was they wanted, you gotta get rid of the dogs, can't own them in this county. But I think the thing that made me the most mad about that was the Humane Society. I've never liked the Humane Society, and I never will. We got people starving and can't afford their medicine, but the Humane Society's got so much money, they don't know what to do with it. It almost feels like people care more about dogs than people. I love my dogs. I still have a passion for these dogs, but I don't put them on the level of my kids or my girlfriend. I just don't. They're animals. I always took good care of them, but they're not on par with a human. And that was one good thing the Humane Society and the dog catcher said was, man, most time we go to a yard of pit bulls, there's feces everywhere. Man, you got a clean yard. So that made me feel good, but it made me feel bad for the fraternity that, man, which I've seen that myself, where people got a bunch of bulldogs and there's piles of feces everywhere. And that's just not how you take care of a animal that should be so respected. But when I called the Humane Society, I talked to a woman. First of all, if you're a police officer or deputy sheriff, whatever, you have to go through training. I don't think it's enough, but you still have to go through training and get certified. When you're a part of the Humane Society, there's nothing. You're just part of it, and you have clout with authority, with legal authorities, which is bullshit. So I called this woman up, and she said, well, first of all, I wanted to let you know that you got a very clean yard. We've never seen that many dogs in it that clean. But I'm a little concerned about a dog you have that really is, you can see its ribs and she's in really poor shape. The rest of them look fine. I said, Miss, did you see the puppies in the doghouse? She said, I did. I heard them, but I didn't see them. I said, okay, I've bred dogs for years. And I could hear dogs in her background. And she said, well, I have too. She had Chihuahuas. I said, the majority of bitches, when they whelp a litter of pups, they look horrible. I don't care if you go out there and feed them fat, you pour grease over their food, you feed them bacon. I don't care what you do. The majority of bitches, they're just going to look like hell. I mean, that's a major thing for anybody who's got kids. If you went in there with your wife, like I did, to see your children be born, man, that takes a lot out of a woman. My hat's off to a woman, because I don't know if I could do that. That looks like a very painful thing, and it's a big deal. And when I had my children, my wife looked like hell for 2 or 3 days. And I don't mean that disrespectful. I mean it with all due respect, man. That's a lot for any creature, woman, animal, to have babies. And when I told her that, I was shocked. She said, well, I breed Chihuahuas, and when they have a litter, if anything, they gain weight. I don't even know how to answer that, because she was a complete idiot. There's no way, when a woman has a baby, let's say it's 6, 7, 8 pounds, okay, there's 6, 7, 8 pounds out of her body, the afterbirth and all that. She's going to weigh less than when she went in. There's no way you're going to have something come out of your belly and you're going to weigh more. So I already rolled my eyes on the phone like, oh my God, I'm dealing with a I'm dealing with a moron. And that's what she was. She was a moron. I have had a few, maybe one bitch where she would have a litter of pups, and within a couple of days, she looked pretty good. But that was just rare. At least in my experience, it was very rare. When a bitch is in whelp, she looks horrible after she has pups, and she's not exactly hungry after she has them. So that's what I dealt with, and said, you have to get that dog looked at, and I have to know she's got a clean bill of health. So that cost me money. So I go to my old vet because I once you're in the dogs, you learn how to take care of your own dogs. Them old time dog men were like vets. Seriously, that's how much they knew. I learned so much from Mike Norrod. I didn't need a vet. So now I gotta go, right? So, and I gotta take money out of my own kick. I go to pardon me. I go to the vet, and he looks at my dog. Bitches, you know, just whelp pups. Gotta take her away from her pups, you know, to do this stupid task. And of course, he gave me a clean bill of health, and his wife was give my dog a clean bill of health that was on pups. Her name was Misty, or Dolly, pardon me. And his wife was the vet tech. So I got to talking to her afterwards, and I said, well, sorry to bother you. I appreciate you being able to call them and let them know. She said, yeah, I told him he hasn't been in here in a while, but every time he does, his dogs look fine. They're healthy, no problems. And she was saying it in a derogatory way, and I didn't I wanted her to elaborate more, but I didn't know how much she wanted to share. And then finally, she just went for it. She said, you know, we have a problem with this Humane Society. I said, really? She said, yeah. They brought a dead dog to my husband, decaying, and said, we want you to look at this and prove the dog died of starvation so we can bring charges on this man. Her husband said, I can't do that. I can't prove that. The dog's not only dead, it's decaying. She said they got pissed at her husband and went to another vet. Like Humane Societies will like have a vet, and if you get free shots when you adopt a dog, or they pay someone the shots. I don't know how it works, but something to that effect. They'll have a vet you go to, and then they'll pay to help, you know, say they pay half and you pay the other half on the dog shots that you adopted from them. So I already seen, and these were nice people and older people, the vet and the vet tech, his wife. So I already knew, man, I knew the impression I got from this lady from the Humane Society. And then them telling me this is a shady Humane Society. So bottom line is I had to hide my dogs, and I eventually moved because I'm not going to be told what dog I can or can't own when I'm a responsible owner. So pardon me, I don't smoke. I don't know why in these videos I have so much trouble. So I do apologize for clearing my throat. Never did smoke, so I don't know why I cough all the time lately and everything. But anyway, that was one thing. So when you own these dogs, you have them on chains, you're going to have people turn you in and say, oh, they're fighting dogs. And they say if you own, you know, more than 3 or 4 or 5, you're fighting them for sure. And this is what you may have to put up with. I don't know what it's like anymore, because like I said, I always hid my dogs in the back. I never told anybody I had them. When I'd buy dog food, and the person at the store would be like, oh, what kind of dogs you got? I just said mutts because it was none of their business. And like I said, I used to, when I was younger and I had them, I'd say that, and their eyes would just, oh my God, you got those kind of dogs? Oh, one day they're going to kill you and your whole family. And I thought, oh my God. These people don't know, you know, their ass from a hole in the ground. So I just quit telling people. But the other trouble I had, excuse me, in a way was even worse. I subscribed to an underground magazine because I wanted to know what dogs were winning, what dogs I might want to get a stud from that maybe breed my bitches to a champion or a grand champion. Well, the guy, I'll just say his first name because I don't know if he's still alive or still active, but the guy that owned the magazine, his name was Jay. And he got busted. They confiscated some of his dogs, and then when they did, I don't know if they got a warrant or not, they went in his house and they took his subscription list for this magazine, which I think is bullshit. If Hugh Hefner, when he was alive, if he would have got caught and charged with some kind of sexual crime, you wouldn't take the Playboy subscriber list, because it's got nothing to do with a crime that maybe he did or did not commit. So they took everybody's address from that, and you would think law enforcement handles that, but it's usually the Department of Agriculture. So I got a helicopter flying over my house. Now, when I say flying over my house, I don't mean like when you're in your car or standing at a neighbor's house and you see an airplane or helicopter go by. I'm talking about if I was standing on my roof and had a cheap dart gun, I could have hit the helicopter. One, that really ticked me off because I don't think that's any different from being on the ground and needing a warrant. Number two, if that helicopter pilot would have a heart attack at that time, he could crash into my house and could hurt me or my kids or worse. And I don't flip the middle finger, just me personally. I think that's adolescent. It's just something I don't do. But I don't know if they could hear me or not, as loud as that thing was. And I remember running out on the porch and just flipping them off and hollering obscenities at them because I didn't appreciate it. Again, I think you need a warrant, even in a helicopter. And two, you know, like I just said, the guy could have a heart attack and fly into my house. Maybe they're looking at the dog so close, because they're probably taking pictures is what they was doing. And you hit an electrical line and mess something up. I mean, that's just crazy to do. So I think they obtained my address illegally. I think that was an illegal, taking pictures of my dogs and flying that close to the yard. I had a family member come over one time and they said, "What the heck is going on? Why would they fly that low?" And I didn't really want to get into it with them or not. I just said, I don't know. When you own these dogs, people's a pain in the ass. That's all I said. But, so they was shocked, like, man, they're flying awful low. That's dangerous. I don't know that maybe 3 times I was there that they did that. And I don't know how many times they did it when I wasn't there. Of course, every time I'd run out there and flip the bird and give them a few choice words what I thought about them. The second thing they did was actually comical. It wasn't slick. Behind my house was nothing but land. And there was an old train track back there that wasn't used anymore. So I seen a van parking back there, sitting all day. I'm like, what? I think it was a tree trimming company, so to speak. I just sit back there and listen to the radio. I could hear them in the backyard. I'm like, what the heck are they doing? Every now and then you'd hear a chainsaw. I drive over by them because there was a road over at the side, away from me a little bit. I look on it, and they're not slick at all. It says, I don't know, something about tree trimming or something. Been in business since 1969 or something. There's no number on it. Normally these days, you have a business truck. It usually has a number or a website. Now, back in these days, I don't know if there might have been internet then, but in those days it was mainly a number. They would just put a number on the side of their van or truck. Couldn't find it. I went to a friend that had internet and a computer, looked them up, nothing even remotely close to this. So it was, it was somebody trying to bust me for dog fighting. And I remember going to the store. They had a little store in I lived in a little town, had one light. The guy that owned the store said, man, I need some trees trimmed. I see that van hangs out by your house all the time, but I couldn't find a number or a website or nothing on there. I said, yeah, I don't know. He said, well, if you talk to them, get their number for me, would you? And he was a real nice guy. I said, yeah, I'll do that. I wasn't going to talk to him, because I wasn't going to tell him that because fuck him. I ain't you know, they're trying to bust me. And they just sit there, and like I said, you knew nothing was going on. They wasn't slick. And one day, a guy walks in my yard, so I'm fucking pissed. I walk out there and confront him. What are you doing on my property? Well, we need to run an extension cord for, you know, I guess the saw. He didn't even really say, he just said, we need to run an extension cord. We need some power. Could we run it across your yard? I said, hell no. He said, what? You're not going to let me run it? I said, no, I don't want you on my property. He got pissed and turned around and walked out. So they wanted an excuse to be on the property so they could look at the dogs. So this is some of the shit that you might have to put up with owning these dogs is nonsense. I mean, there's people out there committing crimes, and they're putting money and resources in to try to bust me, which they never did. It never happened. They're assholes, and I can't stand the Humane Society. So just know, even if you know you're not in the game, and most people aren't, and you just own these dogs because you love them and they're great dogs. If you keep them on a chain, or you have more than 3 or 4, this is maybe some of the stuff you have to put up with. So I want to say real quick too, in my last video, a lot of times I see where I'll say, you know, well, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into this. And I think the reason why I say that, I don't want real long-winded videos. I would like to keep them short, maybe 10, 15 minutes. But also understand that maybe there's some newcomers out there that was like me, really soaking up everything they could. And that's a disservice to you. So the last video I said, you know, the protege of Kenny Gaines said that their favorite dog was Fargo that they seen in the pit. And it was usually Fargo or Champion Turtle Buster, people say. I heard a few others say that Tiger was a good dog and Astro was a good Gaines dogs. Astro and Tiger were good dogs too. I'd heard several people say that Champion Timex was a good dog, and some people call him a grand champion, and he might be. So there was just some things there. I apologize for saying I'm not getting into it, because I need to get into it and let the newcomers on here, it's like a sponge, know the history of these dogs and little tidbits. So that's all for today. I think I got a little long-winded today. Hey, if you're a good person, have a good day.